This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. We're doing our 2025-26 NBA season previews, getting the nitty-gritty now. I'm one of your co-hosts, Andrew Reich. I'm joined by Adam Murray. Adam, this is kind of a somewhat exciting group because there is volatility and there's a lot of change, but there is potential for things to go really bad as well.
This is the chaos group. We had the whole tier, or
the chaos in LA already started, to be honest with you.
We had the tier of people who are actually all in. These are 5 teams who are like, whoa, we're all in too. We're spent to the max. We've traded future capital. We've leveraged all our stuff to go this year. It's like, but you guys know you got like way better teams above you. Well, that's not going to stop us. We can do it.
Yeah. Also, experience laden almost throughout the teams. There's one we'll talk about that's younger than the others, but teams with veterans who they know time's running out, or there's urgency with the superstar of like, we got to get something done, or said superstar is going to want to go somewhere else in the future.
If things go south, heads will roll in all 5 of these places, I think. 4 of the 5? 5 of the 4 of the 5.
There are 4. Yeah, there's an interesting one in Golden State we'll talk about too. Yeah, for sure. Just as our time-honored tradition used to be, Adam, when we started our podcast, because we did it in alphabetical order. Do you want me to say it?
Go right ahead.
Let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. That's how we started every episode. But this is actually one of the teams in this tier. So we will actually start with talking about the Atlanta Hawks. Why are the Hawks here, Adam? They didn't even get through the play-in.
See, I had to push you on them to put them in this group because Trae Young is up for an extension. And
he has a player option next year, and they could not come to an agreement, and they are hardballing. Both sides are hardballing.
They don't want to max him out at what he's at now. If he does good, they don't even want to super max him even more than that. So there's trouble with that. They're putting their stuff on Kristaps Porzingis' health, who they made a trade for in the offseason. They signed Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard to replace.
Yeah, Kennard they did with the MLE, basically a 1-year, $11 million deal.
Yeah, they had LeVert, and then they got rid of him and they got Terrence Mann, got rid of him, and they got rid of Clint Capella because they already marginalized him. So
because of Okongwu,
yeah. So, and then the funny thing about you got Okongwu, and you bring in Porzingis, which now moves Okongwu to the bench.
Well, the thing too is that Okongwu actually, in a very weird way, has similar offensive attributes to Porzingis. Porzingis is much more efficient than Okongwu. Let's be real. I know Okongwu's field goal percentage is through the roof, but Porzingis, we talked about this when he was in Boston, the 2 years he was there, and won a title the first year despite some injuries, and that's still an ongoing issue that we can discuss, where he might have he was ill a lot in the 25 season, but in the 24 season when he played, he unlocked a lot of what made the offense for Boston so good, because he is a bit of a unicorn at the 5 spot. Okongwu's not a unicorn really, but he can shoot threes. He can get to the free throw line. He has those attributes. So you hope he's not marginalized at his young age, but he signed an extension with Atlanta, so he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, like I said, they have him, but then they bring in Porzingis, who's obviously going to start, and you got Trae, you got Dyson Daniels, who you're hoping is going to have a repeat.
Daniels was the MIP, and he led the league in steals. Just an incredible leap from year to year, from when he was a Pelican, kind of learning still, and then getting sent to Atlanta and the DeJounte Murray deal, and just blossomed, just absolutely blossomed.
And you got Jalen Johnson, like we said, you got Alexander Walker, Kennard, Rizacier, as sort of, if I guess Rizacier is going to start by default, and if he falls, you got to move Alexander Walker, maybe. I don't.
Rosacea looked lost as most rookies do. He got a lot better down the stretch. He finished with 12.5 points and 3.5 rebounds. He has the makings of a good scorer. I don't know if he's got the makings of a great rebounder because he likes to shoot threes, but he has potential. He's a good player. Is he number one pick worthy? Blah blah blah. Who cares? I know this. He's a good player.
So the thing I like about them is if somebody's out for injuries, they have backups at every position, which not every team can say that.
Yeah, because if Johnson goes out this time, you at least have NAW to come in and play defense.
Yeah, you got Johnson. You could do a Kongwu with a double big. Asa Newell, their draft pick, can put in
Right.
some minutes. So they got pieces they could slide around. But like I said, they're all in because you got to do something. You got to decide: do you want to pay Trey for 5 more years? You got Daniels, who's up for an extension. He's going to want Jalen Johnson money.
I mean, we can't predict the future. I think they're going to get a deal done for Daniels. I think they're going to tighten that up before the season starts.
And again, Porzingis is coming off injuries, and let's say he does good, you got to pay him too. So this team is essentially a 1-year rental, and their future really depends upon it.
You could tell on July 1st they were going for it. When they signed NAW, when they signed Kennard, when you knew they weren't trading away any of their younger pieces, and it became more and more obvious as the weeks went along that they were not going to just throw the Brinks truck at Trae Young yet, so that they can keep their flexibility. You knew, oh, okay, this is the 1 year that they could really go for it with Quinn Snyder. Their offense was good. Their defense was rough, but here's the thing. Their defensive potential ceiling is high, and they check a lot of boxes on defense because of Johnson, because of Okongwu, because of Daniels. Now you add Alexander Walker. So now you got guys who can actually defend to protect Trey and allow him to freelance. What you wonder is, can Trey dial back into being that more efficient point guard and a better shooting point guard like he was when they went to the East Finals 4 or 5 years ago? That's the big question.
That is, and this will just go right into the Vegas line of 47.5. And
it's a good line.
I don't even know which side you could put them on because they're better than a 500 team with both Boston and Indiana falling down a few pegs. But they were also a mess last year. And this year, like I said, they're trying and they're desperate.
Yeah, you could tell Trey had tuned out. I remember he got ejected late in the Magic game. He tried to save him at the end of the Miami game, but it went to overtime and they lost the overtime because they couldn't make any shots. I think actually they scored 0 points in the overtime, if I remember right. 47.5 for me, that's a good number for them. I would say that's a little too high despite the East being weaker. I would probably go under that. The thing is, though, they're a dangerous playoff team because they have a core and because they have a bench. So they're going to be hard to beat once they get into the playoffs. I will say that for sure. Do you agree with that?
I don't actually have anything. Whatever I pick, I will probably change it when we lock these in. I will begrudgingly, because I have to say something, I will say over, but when you looked at it at the beginning of the year, I'm looking at the roster, I'm like, oh, that's, like 47, 48. And then what is it? Oh, it's right where it should be. Like, that
yeah,
sucks.
and Quinn Snyder obviously trusts Vit Krejci because he's not cut him. I just don't know, like, if you have to start him, you're in trouble.
But who did he's the only point guard. That's why that Luke Kennard signing was curious to me because
they even brought in a Euro who had played in college, I want to say, in America, Nikola Jurisic. They just did it basically because they just need another ball handler,
But like you got Walker, why are you doubling down on Kennard? Like, shouldn't you get like big man insurance since you let Capella
I think Kennard,
go?
It was an elementary decision for Kennard. They were they were 28th and 29th in 3-point shooting and 3-pointers made, and Kennard solves that because you can just, if he's open, he's going to make it. He's one of the best 3-point shooters in NBA history. So that, I think that was the reason there. Their steals rate is ridiculous because of Daniels and Johnson. Johnson's a triple-double guy. Do you think they can have him be a ball handler if he doesn't get hurt?
I don't know. He's a triple double, but you have to then kick it out to Porzingis, which you didn't need to do with Capella or really a Congo. He was
Yeah.
just sort of mop up garbage,
With
hustle
Porzingis,
hustle points.
With Porzingis, you design 3-point shooting for him. You design those little penetrations where he gets to the elbow, you pass it to him, and he just kind of like turns off his shoulder and he makes a hook shot. Like you have to like design offense for him.
Exactly. That's why I could see Johnson taking some. Daniels, I don't expect him to repeat what he did. If he did, then he's going to then cost this team a
He'll be an
fortune.
all-star. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, this was of course you have to start out with the hard one. I'm like, I don't, because their roster looks solid. Their depth looks solid, with the exception of Porzingis. You're putting a lot on, because he's always had injuries throughout his career.
And
You
among the
always
teams we're
know.
talking about, this one didn't make the playoffs. So it's a leap for Atlanta, but they can do it for sure. All right, Adam, we're going to hit now on the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, there was a lot of trepidation when their season ended. Damian Lillard had been out for a while with blood clots. He comes back and almost immediately tears his Achilles in the first round series against the Pacers. Giannis, I don't want to say he was playing with a bunch of plumbers because this is a very similar roster coming back this year that they had in the playoffs, but they were definitely not equipped to beat the Pacers. But Giannis was a matchup nightmare. He was an MVP candidate. They lost in a very dramatic game 5 to get eliminated by the Pacers, and then they really pulled off a coup on July 1st or 2nd, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. They got Miles Turner, and they just said, okay. Well, they did the unthinkable, like, oh yeah, we're just gonna cut you, Dame, and stretch you, and we're
They
content
stretched him.
paying.
Mm-hmm.
We're content paying 22 million on the cap for 5 years.
Well, I call it a coup because I don't think, and look, Damian Lillard said he probably heard musings from journalists and scoopers, but I don't think anyone expected them to actually stretch the last 2 years of Lillard's deal. I think that was what was surprising.
Yeah, nobody could have expected that, but this is a team that would have been in they were in the we think we're all in group last year by selling the house for Dame and putting all their eggs in the basket, and then now they're left with absolutely nothing. So this is just double desperation.
Oh,
So
it's
we're
a desperate attempt. Like the whole idea is, okay, we got to convince Giannis that he wants to be here. Like that this
and
is the
I
place to
don't
be.
we're not talking the future here, because we could go on that for a long time, but
I just like how the bargaining chip was Thanasis. So depending on what happened with Thanasis, it was whether or not Giannis wanted to say. So I think like in late September, Thanasis signed a deal to go back to Milwaukee. So everyone's like, "Oh, Giannis wants to come. Giannis wants to come back."
oh yeah, he's fine for this year. And it's just, you're a team that's desperate for bodies, and you just literally wasted that spot on the bench for his brother. I mean, I guess you got to do
It's a
every.
sacrifice you have to make. That's
Yeah, you
all. That's
have
how I
to.
see it.
But everyone is really hating on them. I don't understand the hate, because okay, you lose Dame, you lose Brooke Lopez, but Miles
Mhm.
Turner is an upgrade over Brooke Lopez.
Fantastic fit for the Indiana offense and defense that was implemented while he was there. I don't believe Miles played anywhere else. I think he played at Indiana for I think 9 years,
His
maybe
career,
10.
yes.
Yeah, this is his first new surroundings, but he can fit for sure with Giannis. Giannis is beyond a unicorn. He is like he's ridiculous. Like
and
you could play him at the 3 if you want to.
and Cole Anthony and Gary Harris aren't terrible players, considering they got Thanasis and all the bottom of the barrel group. Like, they're not terrible. And
Yeah, they have a
who's
show me year for a guy who they had actually developed in the G League, but he's actually turned into a good shooter, AJ Green.
this? Looking at this team, it's like LeBron's Cavaliers or Luca's Mavericks. Like, it was just him and a bunch of assorted kind of garbage. Like, Kevin Porter Jr. is not terrible. Kyle Kuzma just developed bad habits in Washington. He's not. Everyone like acts
He
like he's like the worst
that
player in
was
the world.
where the fit just did not work. Whereas I think with Miles, I don't foresee that as a problem because he's going to get starter minutes immediately. Whereas with Kuzma, it just was hard because Doc Rivers did put him in the lineup to start the moment they acquired him, but he just could not produce. I think he pulled off a couple of Snells in the box score.
They just didn't mesh, and that's Doc's problem is he can't get players to.
And Bobby Portis is just one of those situations where I think he likes it there. They like him there. He's just not going to leave.
Yeah, he's good. He's a solid bench guy, and
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Rollins, who we mentioned overachieved last
He's
year.
He's a Doc favorite. He likes him because he runs the offense exactly the way he wants it to be run.
Gary Trent is just a 3-point specialist who does.
And Trent, even though people really poo-pooed on him for the error he had in the elimination game, where I think the ball rolled under his legs, that caused a turnover that led to the last shot by Halliburton, he actually played well in that playoff series. There were moments where you're like, oh, Trent's a suitable replacement at the 3, like going forward. And they were able to get him on small money. They were able to get Porter Jr. on small money and still sign Turner using cap space. That's why I didn't feel like, oh man, they're desperate. I actually think John Hurst or whoever was in charge of the decisions in Milwaukee I think they actually made some smart decisions.
That was smart based upon the desperation you have.
Right.
But again, with the future, they can flip Giannis. Like, you have Brooklyn just sitting there like the spirit Halloween guy behind the tree in the meme. Like, he's like, we just drafted 5 guys for you who are all on rookie contracts. We got like 6, 7 first-round picks. We could give you 7 first-round picks and any of these guys you want you got Dame sitting there for $22 million. Take a rookie who's only $7 million. There you go. So they could flip Giannis next year when he's truly unhappy because when the time comes, like, I don't think he's going to be there another 7-8 years. But with
another 7-8, I don't see for sure. I can see it.
We're talking this year. This year, they're going to be a hard out. They're going to play hard every game because, much like Atlanta, there's desperation on here because they know if this fails, everyone not named Giannis is like, oh yeah, he's going to be gone. I'm going to be stuck on a rebuilding team who has nothing. So I'm going to be like the Wizards or Utah, just stuck here in misery up in Wisconsin.
I think that people obviously could see, even though he was a huge contributor for them when he was starting, even the year they won the championship, that the Brook Lopez era in Milwaukee had run its course. It was time to move on from there. Portis still provides, and I think the shining hope there is not just the Turner signing, which again I think was a huge plus for them, is the fact that they were able to get production out of the people that were retained, and that's why they can see like the possibility of being a winning team, being a team in a weakened East that can actually make moves. Trent Jr., Porter Jr. Yeah, you talked about Cole Anthony, Taurean Prince is back. Green's a good 3-point shooter. The one thing that you just can always bank on with Doc Rivers is that he's not going to play young guys. So for guys like Andre Jackson Jr. and Mark Sears and Tyler Smith and Chris Livingston, it's just not going to happen. But there is a possibility that, they'll be very hungry when they actually get their playing time.
Yeah. And
I don't know if they're good enough to play well or be efficient during that playing time because they never got the reps. But there will be a point, because this is one of the oldest teams in the league where these guys have got to play some games. I mean, Giannis, do you think he'll be an MVP candidate again? I want to say easily.
They always are. It's SGA, Luka, and then Jokic,
Giannis.
And then Giannis is 4th every year, and it's just that's unexciting. But of course he is. I mean, who else in this team is going to do anything?
I think trade deadline talk is not. I don't see it. I just don't like his player options in 27, so I just don't see it.
They don't have any pieces to offer as sweeteners, but I think they'll try everything to have a desperation heave at the end.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, Vegas started them at 44.5 and moved them down to 43.5. Like this, they're better than a 500 team.
Oh, I think they are. Like this was a team that when they acquired Lillard, now that was a long time ago. Okay, I get it, but when they acquired Lillard, championship team, windows closed. We talk about that on the show all the time. I went back and forth on this. Here's what I'll do. I will go down as a reverse voodoo situation because I always feel like Milwaukee's teams, or Doc Rivers' teams, I mean, play their best when you don't expect them to do anything. And I do get the national sense, Adam, that a lot of people are sleeping on Milwaukee.
Not sleeping, like I said, extremely down on. They're like
Right,
they
but that's where
failed the
Doc
off
Rivers is.
season.
That's where Glenn Rivers is at his best. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'll just join the crowd with the pitchforks and say they'll go under the 43 and a half.
No, I'm gonna go over.
I mean,
They
that's okay to
solidly
say too. I mean,
solidly should.
you have one of the 3 or 4 best players in the world. I mean, you can do this. You can easily get to 40 to 50, 45 to 50 wins very easily. It's just that with Rivers, he's very maddening because in the playoffs with high expectations, he always blows it. But when nobody sees it coming, that's when he strikes. He's like a damn viper. All right, Adam, we had to hold out forever, just like Jonathan Kuminga did, but we can finally talk about the Golden State Warriors and their season outlook.
Do we really?
Well, here's the thing. I think everyone and their grandmother knew certain components of what the team would look like. There was just that one part involving Kuminga where we're like, is he going to be on the roster? Are they doing a sign and trade? Is Kuminga really going to hold out into the regular season until he gets what he wants? At the end of the day, they compromised because there was no sign and trade that was feasible, and there were rumors about involving teams like Miami and
It was Sacramento and only
Sacramento because of Russell Westbrook and like things like that. But at the end of the day, it was a 2-year, $48 million deal. But what it is that it's a team option on the next year.
It doesn't matter about
it's
that.
It's basically a balloon payment.
We already knew Hortford and Melton and
Gary Payton II and then Steph's brothers, Seth. Yeah.
We all knew those 4 were signed. It was just how much money would they get after Kuminga signs. But so it was held up by everything because none of those could be made official. And well, what if Kuminga gets signed and traded? And of those 4, like Hortford, Melton, Payton, re-signing Payton, and then Seth Curry. Do any of those none of those are inspiring. It's just
are they needle movers? Gary Payton II is a huge favorite of Steve Kerr. Everyone knows
but he's getting older and his skills are declining.
Yeah.
And in the West, where everyone...
That was a big problem when Steph Curry went out with the injury in the Milwaukee series. He would put in Gary Payton II because that was a favorite of his because he can rebound. He's sneakily athletic. He can play defense. But offensively, he just can't provide that replacement. Nobody would have expected that anyways. But, I mean, they were getting killed offensively with Jimmy Butler, who, Jimmy Butler's a warrior, buried the lead there. He could not lead them without Curry. This is a situation where I believe if you have all hands on deck in Golden State and you can avoid the infamous injury fairy, they can go really far. This is a team that could probably get to the finals.
I'm not buying it. Like, this is the same way everyone's down in Milwaukee. Everyone's been extremely high on them, and it's just like Draymond is diminishing.
I think it's because people it's one of those things where for superstars, there's that superstar even at an advanced stage, and then there's the playoff version, which people just see as immortal. And with Jimmy Butler, they'd see, if he gets going in the playoffs, watch out.
I don't see any of this. Like, I don't. Buddy Hield started off super hot last year and then fell back to earth immediately.
His salary is very small, so it's not going to hurt them.
Their bench of Hield, Moody, Kuminga, Quentin Post, Melton, and Curry, like a second unit, I guess all those guys can provide you minutes, but I don't see anything exciting there.
When you said the bench, you didn't bring up Brandon Pajemski.
I have him starting.
That's what I was about to ask you.
You're going to put Moody over him?
Well, Moody's injured, I think, to start the season. So
but in general, we know Buddy Hield's not starting.
I agree with that.
I don't Moody. I got Pajemski over Moody.
And TJ, Trace Jackson Davis. It's one of those situations where you got to play somebody at center. And Horford's good, but he's old. Can't
Horford's
play him
good.
all the time.
You can't play him 35 minutes every game.
No,
So
you cannot. Yeah.
you're gonna have stretch five Quentin Post in there giving
My
tons of
fear for
minutes. Like
Horford is that because at Boston he became efficient again because he was able to do the corner threes and all that. I hope he doesn't get into a situation Golden State where he just falls in love with that and he settles for threes in the corner. That's my one fear. I don't think so. I think Steve Kerr and Ron Adams are smarter than that. I think they'll find ways to implement him into the lineup where their plus minus with Horford on the court is really good. But I do agree with you. You can't play him 30 minutes. Like
that's why
you got to play
like
Kuminga some. I think Kerr's stuck here. You got to play Kuminga.
I could see him going to the finals. I'm like, well, they got to get through a lot of other teams who I
They
think are
need luck and they need to
better than
avoid
them.
injuries. That's why I said that. It's ideally they can make it.
And you
You
expect
know,
Curry and Butler, and you need Curry and Butler
how
and
how old is Curry
Draymond to.
now? I by the way, I just want to preface Steph Curry is still like a top 5 guard in the league. He's incredible. He earns the salary that he's given, which is between right around 60 million. His contract's coming up too. So it's one of those things where the Warriors have to please Curry in order to.
He's 37 right now,
It's
and
old, and
Butler
he
is
led the league in
30.
threes made per game.
Yeah, you got him, and you got Butler, and you got Draymond. You're betting on all three of those independently to play 70 games each.
Yeah, and Draymond Green, he is what he is. He works beautifully with Steph Curry. Steve Curry, even to his chagrin, has to have him in the lineup because Steph Curry just does not want to be the one who has to lead the defense, whereas Green doesn't mind it. Green also is one of those players who doesn't mind averaging less than 10 points a game. He's not capable of doing it anyways, but he is a guy who I don't need to score double digits. I can just rebound and assist and do the dirty stuff. I do think there will. Let me ask you this, Adam. Do you think there is an expiration point for Draymond Green? All these dirty like defenders or elite defenders, if you want to put, if that's a better word for it, they all at some point in their careers just kind of like craps out, and it's like, all right, all those little tricks you used to do work, but now your athleticism is just not there. Your brain is there, but your body's not there. Like, do you think that's going to happen eventually for Draymond Green, or do
We're
you
already
think
getting there when he's getting these stupid
yeah, but
fouls,
in
and
the
he's
playoffs, he's still effective. He's still able to play the mind game.
as you get slow, as we saw with Horford. Horford used to be great. Now he's just like you said, the spot up three. It's a lot of wear and tear and a lot of mileage on those bones, and
Yeah.
you expect him to be that lockdown, hard nosed defender. If you're a step slower these days, that's why
Yeah.
he's punching people in the head. And
Just for the sake of a good story, having Seth and Steph play together is fun. That'll create some memeable moments, I guess, because they do look a little bit alike. They don't look a lot alike, but I don't think they ever played together. Not even in college did they play together. When Moody and Hield play together, and then you got Seth on the bench, that's a pretty good 3-point shooting arsenal. So I wonder if they're just gonna be able to get open for a lot of threes in that offense. Steve Kerr's contract, do you think that's a concern? He's in the last year of it.
no, that wouldn't be a distraction
He
because
already said he's not going to coach the Olympics anymore. So basically, he's like, some people think he's winding down.
where I don't want to go into the future about this one and who might make him a Godfather offer and whatnot, and his complete inability to develop Kaminga, which has created this situation because you see Kaminga's you see his flash potential, and then you see him, oh, I'm just gonna bench you, and well, we're gonna bring in Butler, and then that's your minutes, and
Hmm.
then Butler goes out, and then Kaminga has
I
to
mean,
play and plays well in the
Kaminga
playoffs.
practically disappeared in the playoffs until the Steph injury in the Minnesota series, where they had to move Jimmy to basically like ball handler, and then they had to play Kaminga because they needed offense. They still
That's what I meant to say. Not Butler went out. Butler was moved over for Steph, who went out, and then Kaminga was good
right.
there.
Yeah. What do you think of Butler today? Like today's version of Jimmy Butler?
His antics have he's antic free, I guess. He's just been quiet.
They've receded. Yeah, he's on his best behavior.
Like he did it, and then it's just
He still lives at the free throw line. He still averages 6 assists a game.
it'll be interesting to see what they do with him and having a full year to develop everything. With that said, Vegas started him off at 47.5, moved him down to 46.5. And I'm like, you could even slide him down even further because you're betting on all those guys' health and you're in the West. And I think I don't see it. It's just me.
I'll go up. I'll go up that. I'll say so they finished with 48 last year. I'll say they kind of finished right at that same mark. They, by the way, that was 48 wins with a real struggle. They had a good first month. Then they really struggled between December and January before the Butler trade. Then they made a pretty good run. So I would say that they'll go over the. You said 46 or 47.5.
46.5.
I'll go over 46 now. I can see him landing at 48 to 49 wins. Again, I don't see like 55 wins for this team. That's a little bit too much to ask for a team that old in the regular season. They have to reserve themselves. But I can definitely see them doing it. They do need a lot of help. And they need Kuminga to provide. I mean, Kerr needs to swallow his pride at this point and just fucking play him. And let's talk about the LA Clippers. The funny thing about the Clippers is that even though they're in LA and they are the other team, but you're still in Tinseltown, they've been able to avoid a lot of BS and tabloid, shockers for the most part over the last few years since they acquired Kawhi Leonard. Now there was obviously a whole ton that came out a couple of months ago involving Kawhi Leonard having a lot of basically under the table payments from Steve Ballmer and associates of him in the Clipper organization for no show appearances. And so that was a lot of the talk. I think the other thing that's important to talk about with the Clippers is that they are probably the oldest NBA team I've ever seen in terms of average age.
I would have been so up on them just before all these distractions because that's all the talk will be of just Kawhi, who is
Let's just get it out of the
very
way. Let's get it out of the way. Do you think Kawhi Leonard will be suspended?
no, because it was what can you
Not
do?
him. Yeah.
It
Well,
certainly
but what do you? But if you're at look, this is a really tough. This might be the toughest choice Adam Silver's ever had to make ever. People are like, oh no, that had to be when he banned Sterling for life. That was an easy decision. It was also a popular decision because Sterling was a bad owner. Steve Ballmer, let's be clear, a very good owner in terms of being passionate about his team, his fan base, wanting his team to be good. He actually is a progressive owner, but this is cheating. What they did was cheating.
I don't want to get into this part too much, but how is it up to Kawhi if the company says, well, you don't need to show up for things?
Okay, then what's the punishment, Adam? You take away
It would
draft
be
picks?
all ownership stuff, the same way when Minnesota had the Joe Smith thing. Joe Smith didn't get suspended. What it wasn't his. He just was like, I'm just playing.
I think they eliminated his contract. That was the only punishment he got.
They eliminated his deal when they lost.
Right.
But he still, I think, didn't he wind up
That I
resigning
can
there? He
see.
went
He's
back.
got
But
so Kawhi's got an even 50 million for the
but they're
next
not
2
going to
years.
cut his contract because
I don't
that
know.
was
They can actually that could be put in arbitration.
that's the previous contract, and you're not going to have him signing for a vet. There's not going to be a feeding frenzy to sign him for veterans minimum because he was forced to be cut from the
He did
Clippers.
start playing in February after he signed an extension. He played well. He also looked great at times in the Nugget series in the first round. They got blown out in game 7 because they just couldn't hang with Jokic and Murray and Porter and Gordon. They were just better than the whole core of the Clippers, and James Harden did his James Harden thing in game 7s. But Kawhi overall looked good in the playoffs. It was optimistic to see Kawhi Leonard actually play really good basketball in the playoffs because we hadn't seen it in a long time.
Anywho, going back to the last dance here.
Yeah.
Everyone is like, well, they did. I am extremely high on them because this really is the most desperate of desperate times because everyone on here. Okay, I'll just let me sum it up this way. They lost Amir Coffey, Patty Mills, and Ben Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah, and Ben Simmons was a last second person in the midseason. Yeah,
they added Brooke Lopez, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, John Collins, and a sponsorship from AARP Insurance because they're all super old.
John
This
Collins to
is
me, I think John Collins is the best addition
John Collins is a complete steal,
because
and
he could give some blow to Zubac, who's a very good center. He averages 12 and a half rebounds and 17 points, but he has to get off the court sometimes so that you could just show variety on your defense.
you then could slide Kawhi to the three, and you have Harden, Beal, Kawhi, Collins, Zubac, with Chris Paul, Ryan Dunn, Bogdanovich, Derek Jones, Nick Batum, and Brook Lopez as your depth. You don't need anyone on this team to be playing over 30 minutes.
Yeah,
With
they can
the amount
do.
of bodies they have, and Tyronn Lue should be able to swap anybody out at any given point. The depth and the you don't need to rely on Harden to go, all right, go shoot me 43s and do what you need to do.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say. This is not gonna be. They were not a 3-point shooting team last year. I doubt it. It will be this year. It'll be a slower team. It'll be a team that doesn't really spread the wealth too much in terms of like ball movement. Like those older Spurs teams were. This is just gonna be a little bit more of like, look, we're veterans. We know how to get our baskets. Or we know how to play our roles, and they'll
Yeah,
play
we're not
into
going
a
to do
team.
we're not going to go 1 degree
They're not
out
going
of
to
our
reinvent the
lane.
wheel. Yeah, they're not going to
Exactly.
reinvent the wheel. Yeah. It's going to be
And
a very simple, strong defensive team.
I am for it. I think getting bodies who can play and know what it takes, like out last dances Golden State and their assorted parts.
Yeah, and I do think all the kerfuffle around Kawhi does lend a little bit of, not desperation, that's not the right word, a little bit of urgency of like you're saying, the last dance and everything. I can see this being a scenario where, look, if this one doesn't work out for us, say we lose in the first round again, with this team, with the score, if this happens, we might as well just trade everything, and start
Well,
over.
everybody's only under contract for 2 years, so they
Yes.
have
I mean, to be honest with you, Adam, I can see two of these guys retiring when their deals are up, in Paul and Lopez. Like, this could be
right.
the last stop.
Okay, Vegas has moved them around a little bit. Not much, but they started at 47.5. Liked them. So they went up to 48.5. And then went right back down to 47.5.
Why? Because Steve Ballmer got conned? That was the one game swing?
I think it was 40. Oh, we like it. Well, let's move it down. And then
I'll
guess
be honest,
that's the magic
even
window.
in my opinion, even with the change in game from 48.5 to 47.5, I'll go down. I'll go lower because I just got a feeling they're going to have their offensive struggles and it's going to hold them back.
Of course you are.
Yeah, but I think that defensively they're going to be such a good team that they're going to be able to win most of their games despite, we didn't even talk a lot about James Harden because he's not Rocket Harden anymore. He's not the guy that averaged like 30 points a game, but he's still a 9 assists a game guy. He gets to the free throw line a ton. He handles the offense. It's playoff Harden. Playoff Harden's always been the problem.
Yeah, but I think they're just going to be calm and measured and just, I don't want to say turn into old school San Antonio and just be efficient the entire time. And because I don't expect flashiness and run and gun, I expect a very methodical year from them, knowing like everyone's going to be talking about us. Every day we have to answer questions.
Well, they're not even be talking about the team that much, other than the Beal acquisition, which was really good. I thought getting Bradley Beal for basically cents on the dollar was good. But they're talking about the organization and their faults. I don't think that's and the Clippers.
Yeah, but it's still a distraction for the players.
It is, and this happened to the Clippers. This happened to the Clippers 10 years ago in the playoffs.
Playoffs.
Like with the Sterling tape, but that was way different. Whereas this one, I don't know what's going to happen with Ballmer. I think that's going to be a lot of controversy. There's going to be a lot of close-ups of him in the courtside with the presumed partner who was involved in the scheme. But at the end of the day, I don't think it bothers Lou at all. I don't think I know Kawhi will be asked a bunch of questions, but he's not one to talk to media anyway.
Exactly, and that's going to be. Well, since Kawhi's not going to talk, we need to ask everybody this. And it's like, why would Derek Jones Jr. care about what Kawhi did? Well, we're going to ask you anyways because Kawhi's not talking to us.
Yeah,
It is,
Bogdanovich is a big Bogdanovich. I'm curious to see because he's had a lot of injuries, but we've seen in European play that when he gets time to play, he's really really good.
yep. So I take the over.
Okay, and that's a safe
I
bet.
said that in the previews. I am in on them, which I believe came out like the day we released like the day before this whole scandal thing dropped. So I'm like, that's perfect timing as it usually is.
I just got a feeling that in the regular season, being as old as they are, it's gonna hurt them in terms of being able to drag out some of these wins. But in the playoffs, it's gonna be a gold mine to be able to have all these guys that have been around and have won and been in close playoff series before for sure.
Playoffs.
My oh, things changed in Lakerland, Adam. It all just came down to one very weird, lonely night between two old friends, Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison back in January, where all of a sudden Luka Doncic was a Laker.
Yeah, but that's old news now. Now
It's
where
old news, but he did sign the extension,
he
which
signed the extension and he's on angry revenge mode
it's
tour.
the Los Angeles Lucas. That's what it's going to be now.
However, ESPN is going to be the main problem here. Not the fact that you have 55-year-old LeBron James. You added Marcus Smart, who you hope will be Boston Marcus Smart, but
Yeah, he was bought out by the Wizards, so they signed him for like 2 years, 10
yeah,
mil.
they
Yeah.
got him. They're hoping for that, but he's sort of broken down. You got DeAndre Ayton, and you're hoping to get Phoenix playoff DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah,
Not
that was used with MLE money, and the rest of it they used on Jake LaRavia.
Yeah, not disgruntled. Just leave Portland,
Mhm.
Ayton, and Jake LaRavia, who just Memphis was like, we're not going to sign you to we're not going to pick up your fourth year option, and that didn't make any sense, and he outplayed his contract in Sacramento. And he's a nice pickup. They lost Dorian Finney-Smith, and LaRavia should be an ample replacement for him. It's
Yeah.
just ESPN is going to make LeBron's contract a distraction every game because ESPN they're not going to talk about anyone else other than LeBron.
Yeah,
So
well, what happened is LeBron always has these contracts where at the end of the contract he has a player option, almost to a T. Even when he was in Cleveland, he would always opt out and then sign for more with an extra year or two, depending on what was negotiated, and then he would just rinse and repeat. This is the first time ever that LeBron James opted into his 52 million. So this gives the sense that because of the fact that Luka's got the big extension now, 3 years, 165 mil. There's a lot of guys coming off the books in 2026 as well. This gives you the sense that this is probably the last year for LeBron James as a Laker.
well, yeah, and how many
Now,
more
is
years
this
does he
his
have left?
last year
Period.
in the NBA?
But that's all ESPN is going to talk about the same
Right.
way because they don't know how to
Well, it's the
talk about
sexiest
anything
story of
else.
the NBA.
And it's going to be frustratingly annoying. So it's hard to pick Revenge Luca with the rest of and then you listen to the reports that Austin Reeves can get 40 million next year. Like from who? Who's
Yeah.
going to pay
Yeah,
him 40 million? Is
listen.
he a $40 million
Opting out
player?
of the opting out of the 15 million next year is perfectly acceptable. So
Yeah.
now there were rumors about what deal he turned down. So some people said it was like 4 for 100 or 3 for 100 because he
It
thinks he
was
can get
4
more
for
than that.
84 is the most they
And
could
that they
give
think he's
him.
going to get more than that. You know what? I think he's going to get more than that. But is he going to get the max, the veteran max? Absolutely not. But that's going to be up. That's going to be for Austin Reeves to find out. Good thing the Lakers have a lot of cap room because remember, Rui Hachimura, who's still with the Lakers, a good player too. He's coming off. He's going to come off the books. You got Gabe Vincent and Maxi Kleber who's going to come off the books. You talked about the short-term deals for Ayton and LaRavia and Smart. Dalton Connect still there, even though there was this weird situation where it looked like he was going to get traded to Charlotte for Mark Williams, and then the deal got ripped up. So they have these; those are basically the rest of the pieces, along with Jackson Hayes and Bronny. Can we
He's
forget about Bronny, or do we need to talk about Bronny?
the Thanasis of the West.
yeah, the Thanasis of the West. And Nick Smith, who they just picked up for after Charlotte cut him.
I know, which that was a surprise cut by Charlotte, considering
Yeah.
he started a good amount of games.
It's a very
But
similar team to last year's, basically, that lost to
you
Minnesota in the
got
first round.
Aiton for nothing, so that was a complete godsend, considering they desperately needed a center, and mysteriously a center falls into place. Is he a is this team going to play any defense? No,
What did
not
you
at
think
all.
of the Lakers after they acquired Luka and they had Luka and LeBron for the most part? Defensively, they actually didn't look terrible. But you did start to see the cracks defensively in the playoffs against the Wolves.
And you expect Jared Vanderbilt to be healthy, like he hasn't been. And
And
you
this
just,
was the first, and I'll say this too, this was one of the only times I've seen LeBron physically wear down at the end of a season.
yeah, he wore down. So you can't be playing him 45 minutes a game. And so
Agreed.
you think Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and really Vanderbilt is gonna be ample bench? No, that's a severe
That's a
drop
hard
off.
ask. That's a very tough ask. And now you can play Rui a lot. He doesn't get hurt that much.
Rui's
and he's a
fine, and he's fine being a fifth option,
But
which
he's
he
not. I
essentially
mean,
is.
you can't replace LeBron James even today. LeBron was a second. I think he was All NBA second team. Like he's
It
still a
was
great
a
player.
generous NBA
It
second
was,
team.
but he's still a very good player. If you really had a neutral all-star choice, I would pick LeBron in it. But is he the best player in the world? No. Is he the five best players in the world? Probably
No,
not. Probably not.
no.
But like
Top 15, top
but if
10 to
he's your
15.
second
Yeah,
best player, and then you got Doncic. Now Doncic's numbers in LA, 28, 8, 7.5. What's amazing, Adam? That's less than he did in Dallas. So
well,
you
because
wonder if
he
they're gonna
had
have
Dallas was
re-implement himself.
catered to him. Everything ran through him. Here,
Well,
he
the
had to
Lakers
sort of
are JJ
adjust as it
Redick's gonna
goes.
have to cater the offense to Luka.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
and he also had to redesign everything because when you flip an AD, when you flip a big for a small, you can't just reinvent your entire playbook in 1 week and have everyone go with it. You just had LeBron and Lucas sort of, free forming it.
And Redick's inexperience as a coach showed in the playoffs too.
So you have all these pieces of old man LeBron who's trying to will himself to do it. And unfortunately, it gets tiring for me to say this, but in the West, Oklahoma City and Denver and Minnesota, who are light years younger and faster, are just going to run circles around that.
Too much depth. Too much depth. That's why Minnesota beat them.
And you have old men and we just mentioned in Golden State and the Clippers, who I think are both better than this old man and his, Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, and
fine,
what a lot of these superstars do, they just think to themselves, okay, I can make the superstar money at my franchise, and I can outlast these teams with their depth because eventually free agency and the second apron and all this cap stuff is gonna eventually deplete their roster, and then we can leapfrog them. For LeBron, this is kind of it. Like, I mean, let me just ask you this. I'm not trying to be a hot take guy. This isn't first take. We don't do that here. But let me just ask, do you think this is last year?
Probably not.
I think it is. I think he's going to announce it at some point around Christmas time that this is his last year.
No. I could see him having a 1 year, like the Dirk, I want a celebration in every city I go to tour.
Yeah,
he seems like a player who would do that. And
I mean, let's be real, Adam. All superstars are egotistical. Current day GOAT Hall of Fame type of talents are egotistical. So yeah, LeBron wants everything. He wants the red carpet. I understand.
And the fact
that.
he hasn't asked for the red carpet yet, I don't see him doing it half through the year, unless some injury comes in and you're forced, your hand is played.
And also your exit. What's your last game? Well, if your team's not good enough in the playoffs,
he left the playoffs injured. He got injured for like the first time at the end.
And that's just the reality of competitive sports. It's not wrestling. You can't just predict your finish. Like if your last game you get swept in the second round, that's it. That's the end. And a lot of careers, all-time careers, end that way. I live in New Orleans. I watched Drew Brees throw interception after interception to finish his career in an empty building because of COVID. So like things like that, like you can't predict how long physically a guy can last. But Luka clearly is the future. I mean, he's like one of the 4 best players in the NBA. You can't revolve the offense around LeBron forever.
Of course, but you have to tell LeBron that, and well, his agent has to tell what he thinks. It's like, well, nobody.
But Aiden gives Doncic a great role, man. He loves having bigs that help him out, so he doesn't have to get in there and play dirty. So you got Aiden there, you got Rui there, a couple 3-point shooters, and Connect and Laravia. We'll see if it works. It's a little bit of an experimental lineup, and then Redick in his second year as a head coach. What's their win mark? What's going to be their predictions here?
They started at 47.5, and they went down to 46.5 on. I believe I locked this in on, was it schedule release day?
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I locked this in. I probably should have started every episode by saying this, but minor details. Yeah, they started at 47.5 when the books opened in mid-July, and then they slid down to 46.5.
I had higher than that for a while, but at the last second, I'll go lower than that. I just think they're going to have a lot of struggles, especially on defense.
I think at 46.5, I would take the over, because I would say 47 seems like a good.
They had 50
good
wins
point.
last year,
But
but again, it was a very different team in the first half of the
But
season.
with that said, like, now that we're wrapping up this group here, do you have anything left to say on the Lakers before I move on?
I'll give you one funny caveat. The last game of the regular season for the Lakers is a home game against the Jazz. Guess
Yeah.
what Kobe Bryant's last game was?
Against
A
the
home
Jazz.
game against the Jazz. LeBron might try to score 100 points.
I wouldn't be surprised with that if he's not injured. But with that said, let's look at these three teams in the West here. The Clippers, Golden State, and the Lakers. All their win totals are 46 or 47.
Yeah. I think I went under on all of them except for maybe one.
That is that group right there, which are very tight together, which is why I put them all in this tier. That's still the 5, 6, 7 seed. So the Lakers right now are penciled in to be the play-in game.
Yeah.
So if I love Golden State, yeah, but they could be in the play-in game, and you still got to go to Oklahoma City or Houston, and then go to Denver or Minnesota, most likely.
Yeah.
Off the bat. Like, so that's how is old man LeBron gonna get through? Let's say you squeak in the 6th seed. You're not even at the 7. You somehow squeak in at the end of the playoffs in the West. You got to go potentially to Denver, to Houston, and then to Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think they've been bouncing the first round for the last 2 years.
How I'm not ESPN where I'm just gonna say them, and then like the Cowboys have one good game. You think they could be in the championship again? Think they in the Super Bowl? No, because they're terrible. The Lakers are not a good team overall.
And spoiler alert, with the new television contract, they're all over Prime. They're all over NBC and Peacock. Like, they're going to be on TV a lot.
Of course. So no, I'm gonna, because I went under, I look at them and Golden State sort of just like the same, like equal.
But you're high on the Clippers.
I'm high on the Clippers
because of the veteranship.
Golden State and the Lakers I see even. So if I went down on Golden State, I had to go up on the Lakers. So I am taking the over on the Lakers, because that's why. As much as I'm being negative about the Lakers in general, I went down on the Warriors, so I can't be down on both of them, especially because right below that group, this group we have here, this reeks of desperation. You got Spurs, Memphis, and Dallas. Do any of those teams really pose a threat to this group? No, not really, because
not really.
Dallas knows they're a year off. San Antonio knows, oh, we could take a year off. We got time. Memphis needs to find themselves after.
And we know what's going to happen with Dallas. Luka will forever hold it against Nico Harrison. So he will never let Dallas have a better record than his team.
Oh yeah, and he's going to go in there every game and score like 70.
And just try to destroy them, right? So I understand that. The thing that's interesting about that tier, just in general, as we kind of wrap up this whole thing, there's 7 teams in the highest. And if for those who want to listen to that one, it's available. But can you see a team jumping into that fray? Where we have like 7 teams in the West and the East, where
they're desperate.
This team could win a
any
title.
Of them can. all these teams are going to play hard, not because they want to. Like,
I'll say this, Adam. I have high doubts that the Hawks or the Bucks can make the finals. I sincerely doubt it. The three West teams, it's possible, but
but
they need a lot to go
the
their
two
way.
on the East are going to play like they depend upon it. Detroit's just happy to be continuing their upswing. Orlando is always snake bitten, and I'm high on them, but
And they're in the tax next year, so they got to prove it.
yeah, but they're
Yeah,
not the desperate yet. New York
desperate.
is desperate because the coach was a problem, so
Cleveland,
that's all.
Cleveland. This is
Cleveland is
it.
built for it. So,
Yeah,
but Atlanta's like, well, we need to win to prove we can keep this roster together, and
yeah.
Milwaukee's just like, well, we need to keep Giannis by any means necessary, and the only way to do that is by making the finals. So they're going to play harder than they should. Whereas you have the West here, like Minnesota or Houston have to take a real
Mm-hmm.
downturn in order for one of these three teams to move
And
up.
the other thing about the five teams we talked about today, the other thing that's interesting is that all five of these teams, Adam, they're kind of out of excuses. Whereas if you look at the seven teams below them, they all have legitimate excuses for why they can't make it. Too young, injuries, our top players out for most of the season, something like that. For Atlanta, Milwaukee, Golden State, LA, and the Clippers, or the Clippers and the Lakers, there's no excuses. This is
Well,
it.
that's
You've got
why
to prove it.
that's why we said heads will in the beginning of the episode. Heads will roll if they
Mm-hmm.
don't get it this time.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see because this is the one tier that can't take a day off. Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma City be like, yeah, we're just gonna phone it in. We're not gonna show up.
Can any of these teams fall back? I would actually say none of them. I think they're all
No,
going to be right
we
where
we
they're at.
just mentioned Spurs and Memphis who are primed to play spoilers. You have we could have even put like I could have put Sacramento in here who think they're all in because they're just delusional.
I think Toronto thinks they're good this year. To
Toronto
be
thinks they're
honest.
playoff good.
Yeah.
But they want to be just in that stuck in the middle with you group. They're not in this. This tier is like the high end of the stuck in hell group
Like
of
this is the group that the Pacers were in probably last year. When we just
no
when we
the
when we did this.
Pacers because there was no this every team here. I think even including Atlanta because you have the big Trae Young thing is in desperation mode. Indiana wasn't in desperation
You
mode
have
last
and
year.
also you have superstars in their 30s or late 30s, to be fair.
This is the end of the ES. This is the ESPN is clinging to this group for dear life because you have the top group of Cleveland. Well, we don't want to show Cleveland
because of
we don't,
all the intrigue of like, will they ask for her to be traded? Will they be?
yeah, we don't.
Will they
We need
sign
to,
an
we,
extension? Blah blah blah.
yeah, we need to ask if Donovan Mitchell wants to go to New York. We need to.
Yeah, but
Oh,
that's interesting. Like, Indiana did take a jump from where we had where a lot of people had previewed them before the season and then into the finals. The Thunder, everyone knew they could make it. Everyone, when we previewed them, you and I both said,
well, they were already the penciled in the number one seed.
a lot of
with,
people
so it
thought
was
they could
just
make
sort
it,
of,
and Indiana was a surprise. Could any of these teams be a surprise? I would say
it's the West.
it's hard because they're all older. That's my problem with them.
It's the West, and they can be in the finals or they can be in the lottery with a one bad week of injuries. And I think the Clippers are fine to weather Kawhi's 30-game absence that he'll eventually have.
Of course,
If LeBron or Luka took time off, could this team
they're in
survive?
trouble. Yeah.
If Curry
Oh
or
no, I know where you're
Draymond gets
going. If
injured,
Curry or Butler get hurt, it's over. It's curtains. They're
I was
going to
gonna
be
say
like a
Draymond
30-win
because
team.
they're they're dangerously thin in the front court with Quentin Post, Trace Jackson Davis, and Al Hortford. So
Yeah.
you're putting a lot of money onto old knees.
Right. And the Bucks can survive injuries and the Hawks can survive injuries. The thing about Trae, this is kind of sort of a contract year, so he has to show it.
They do. And with that said, that will bring an end to this episode in this tier. So for Andrew Reish, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.